So I'm back here. We're here again on the YouTube. Today I'm going to be talking about a game I'm very excited about. Ratchet Clank Rift Apart. This is actually later than I wanted it to be. I think it was last week. We had the state of play where they revealed some new gameplay, and earlier in the week they also had the trailer. And there's kind of quite a lot of new stuff, new information that's come out about Ratchet Clank, lots of things to speculate about. And I just wanted to sort of talk about my overall opinion and thoughts on this. The game's only 5 weeks away, I'm very excited. And I just wanted to kind of give a rundown. So yeah, as I said, I was really happy with, what's been shown. And to be honest, I was sold on it because it's Ratchet and Clank and I love the series. But that gameplay was generally got me even more excited. I've watched it several times over since, and I'm just like, I always say with a lot of games, I don't think I've been this excited for a game, but I genuinely think this is like one of the first games I've been like, it's like a fan favorite series, it's one I've loved, and I'm glad that we're getting it back. And it's going to be on PS5, and it's going to be not ultra realistic, but ultra graphics settings, loading, whatever. And at 60 FPS as well on one of the modes, which I hope it has ray tracing on, but I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, I thought I'd just go through different things. I've written down some notes here, as I usually do, just to kind of talk about what I thought. So I'm going to start off with the one that. So if you followed my other video, I think I did a video on this. Yeah, I did the video, and I think I don't know if I did an article, but I had like an article video kind of combination, primarily on the video side, talking about what I wanted and what my hopes were. That was later than intended, and it released. I ended up publishing it after the state of play, but it was recorded a few hours before. And not all of those things that I said I wanted were shown, but I expected that anyway, and actually some of the things that I did mention were shown, but I'll get to that in a bit. So we'll start off here with the story and presentation. So this isn't really much I've got really to say a lot on. I think everyone can tell that the game looks incredible, like graphically. Worlds look vast, and they look unique. There's disparate locations, like it's completely different wherever you go. And it looks like there's going to be a lot of variety in the planets, and they said what they showed was only from the early hours of the game. So even if that's like, 3 or 4 hours in, I'm hoping that we've got another quite a good few number of planets that we're going to be able to see. Yeah, and so, but when it comes to the story, I actually think the story is really interesting here. I think that the basic setup of like Dox Nefarious wanting to just like going to a dimension where he always wins, I don't really know his reason for that. I think it's just kind of a continuation from the previous games. I actually do want to play through. My plan is to hopefully get through. I think I've nearly finished 2. I don't know if I'll go for the platinum. I feel like I want to just because I can do it. But then I'll go through 3, Gladiator, and all the PS3 games because I want to see how linked in those games are, because some of the planets, I think one planet is called Sargasso, which I believe is where Rivet's gameplay was taking place. That was apparently, I think it's a Tools of Destruction planet, or it's a Crack in Time planet, and it's been a long time since I played those, so at some point, I'm hoping that I can go back to them and just check them out again, and see if, for any kind of references and things that I don't remember too much now, going back and playing those might be worth it. But yeah, to focus entirely on the story, I think it's interesting how Rivet has been brought in, because she's obviously with Clank, and a lot of the game seems like it's going to be focused on Rivet and Clank on one side, and then Ratchet on the other. And Ratchet has the hover boots, and he also has a new dash. And I think was there another ability? I think it might have just been the hover boots and the dash that they showed off. But those abilities in themselves suggest that they've given Ratchet more mobility because they know that Clank's going to be with Rivet. I think Rivet does have the dash as well, though, so who knows. But I think this is always interesting when Ratchet and Clank do this. Whenever they split Clank away from Ratchet, it's something they've done a few times, I think. I remember it definitely being done through Quest for Booty. It was at the end of Tools for Destruction, and that was, I think, Quest for Booty was like entirely, just like, Clank, just Ratchet on his own. So I think it's interesting to see how we'll see them meet up again. The character interactions and like the dialogue, I think, has been really cool. I think it's interesting to see how Rivet and Clank's kind of relationship will pan out, but also how, if Ratchet gets brought into that, how those three will sort of, get on, and because it's new light, it's a different Lombax. Ratchet, obviously, it's in a different dimension. And speaking of that different dimension, I think that's actually a really cool element of the game, because who knows what they can throw at us, like in terms of various like throwbacks and Easter eggs and things like that. And I think there was also, I was watching, I think it was Kind of Funny Games, their reaction, and they suggested, like, I think Clank, like having an alternate Clank and it being like called Clink or something like that. And I thought, I mean, they've already done in Ratchet Clank 3, there was the other version of Clank, who I think was called Clunk. So I think it would be interesting, and that was involving Doctor Nefarious. So who knows what could happen here? Um, yeah, and I think one character in there sounded like Skid McMarks, as well, which would be really cool if he's returning. I will say, I probably should have said this at the beginning. If anyone's not wanting to know anything about the gameplay, I mean, you probably shouldn't have clicked on this video, to be fair. But yeah, spoilers. I'm going to go through the gameplay. I'm going to be talking about what they showed. So just a warning in case anyone doesn't want to know anything about it and wants to be dark. But you probably would have already known about that already by this point. And I apologize if you've clicked on the video and I've spoiled something so far. But yeah. So yeah, I think story's not really a big thing for me in Ratchet, but I do think this one seems cool. And the one I was talking about, the character interactions, the animation work and the way that characters look and are animated is just so amazing to me. It's like it really embodies like some of that cartoony, you know, you properly get a sense of the character with the way that they move and the way that their face, like the facial animations and everything like that. It's honestly really great stuff, and I can't wait to kind of see more of that across the entire game. Yeah, and I'm interested to know where the story goes. But to me, the biggest thing about Ratchet has always been its gameplay, and that covers a whole number of different things. So first on, next on my notes, I've got about combat. So the combat looks basically like they already showed the combat before, and it's Ratchet combat. Ratchet combat's always been fun, and they've got obviously new weapons now. I think like Ratchet's always got one of the silly weapons, and here they've got the topiary sprinkler, where it like turns enemies into like plants or like bushes, and it's like it's one of those ridiculous Ratchet weapons that it's just really cool that they have. And it's just like I'm interested to know if there's gonna be more of those because they tend to only have a couple of them. I think they've had ones that turns enemies into sheeps before, and various things. Um, I think one thing. Well, I mean, the combat. I should say the combat in its how it looks. By the way, is really awesome. Like visually and sound design wise, it is just. Like they were showing off the I don't think it's not called the Devastator. The shotgun they show off that I've completely forgotten the name of. Which is bad. I should have remembered. I think I wrote it down somewhere, but oh well. Whatever the shotgun is, the sound of that and the visual kind of like expression of that gun looks so cool. Like the kind of like and the way that that's then integrated into the dual sense, which is another thing they spoke about, was how it can add new functionality for weapons. So like this shotgun, they were saying that if you hold down the trigger half the way, it fires off one barrel, but if you pull it all the way, it fires off both barrels. But they said that it takes longer to load between that double barrel shot compared to the single barrel shot. So like I don't know how noticeable that'll be, but I do find elements like that are really cool to have, and it again for a next gen game, it suddenly makes it feel like the game that you're playing is deeper and it has a bit more. It makes you feel like it's true exclusive kind of thing. I'm interested in how it'll feel because the triggers can sometimes feel a bit odd, but I guess it's just something you get used to over a while, but over time. But I think adding new functionality for weapons is great, especially for Ratchet, because it deepens the potential for combat and for weapons themselves. Ratchet's always had like a good variety of weapons. This just adds to that because it adds now new functionality that can be paired with those weapons to make them, be usable a different way. They also used the burst pistol. They said that half press is a single shot, and a full, like if you hold it all the way down, it's full auto. And again, just what they showed of combat was just so cool to me, and I genuinely really can't wait to get to mess around with their new weapons. So the one thing that they didn't show too much of, and I'm totally fine with that, but you got a sense of it. They show off two different locations. They show off Nefarious City and Sargasso, and I think they show some other locations, but like they weren't named from my understanding. And one thing that I wanted was that the planets don't feel like you just load in and it's like a single path. Like I want it to feel like there's multiple paths, there's hidden things and whatever else. And in this particular case, when they're showing Nefarious City, I mean, I don't know how much is like available to explore, but it looks like there's a lot. Like, I was really honestly taken back, and the same could be said when they show Sargasso with Rivet later on. There's just so much you can explore and so much going on, and they show to kind of expand on that, they show off what they call pocket dimensions, and I think I probably have written something somewhere around here about it. But they show going through this pocket dimension, which is just seamless, like you just walk into this other place. They find a bug, which is I think is they call it a speetle, and you can ride the speetle, and they ride the speetle all the way around this place, and then they go back out the rift, back into Sargasso, and you're seeing Sargasso just like this, all of this space. Now they said it is like acid swamps there, so I don't know if that's all like necessarily traversable on foot, but I do find it really cool that there seems to be a lot of expansion to these areas. These areas aren't just small single linear paths; they are open. They feel like a planet. They feel like they're kind of alive and like there's things to find. And I'm interested to know how they'll actually play out and whether there will be genuinely like worthy reasons to explore and go to the different areas on it. Because for all we know, it could just be collectibles, or it could just be there for no reason. But I have faith that they, and that density makes those planets feel more expand. They just feel more interesting. There's more to look around. You get a better sense of the world and the life there, and there is such an incredible disparity between Nefarious City and Sargasso that one's like futuristic sci-fi, just drenched in neon lights, and then it's not Doctor Nefarious has taken over. He's now Emperor Nefarious, and then Sargasso is like more of a I don't know if rural's the right word, but it's a little bit more like you're a there's a word for it, but yeah, there's like more creatures. I think there's like dinosaur like creatures there as well, and then you get more of an idea for like what a different planet is like. Um, and yeah, and so on top of that, obviously having multiple ways to traverse is a good thing as well. Ratchet's got his hover boots. They show a brief section of like a kind of open world exploration like thing, and Ratchet's using his hover boots. Obviously there's those speedles on Sargasso. And another thing which I assume might not necessarily be too much tied into side areas, but they showed off grind rails. They at least showed it off in the trailer last week. The game, I don't think the gameplay had any grind rail gameplay, but the trailer showed some grind rails, and I'm glad that they're back because they're always fun. Hopefully they've got some good challenging ones in there for just exploring planets and whatever else. And what kind of I've put Traversal as its own sort of category, but that does kind of tie into some of that exploration. Obviously, you have the hover boots, but there's also new abilities such as wall running. That was the other one when I mentioned a minute ago. There was another ability, wall running. There's now Ratchet at least has wall running, which doesn't really look like they didn't show any like super difficult segments with it. It was just run along a wall and you do a platforming kind of section. I don't know how on rails that'll be. But that's like an addition, and they also mentioned that they're trying to make mobility I think a larger part of the game, which I think is great, because it just, and you see that in combat, the way they're actually kind of like jumping, flipping around, and dashing in the air. It really kind of makes it feel like the game's gonna have, like, combat looks like it could be a bit more intense and over the top with all of the, with the jumping and the dashing and elements like that. I'm just like, good, that you go further down the road, like embrace the combat kind of thing. And because of those abilities, like I think they call it the Phantom Dash, because of things like that, it means that combat as Ratchet doesn't feel like you're necessarily, I don't think it doesn't feel like you're a hindrance. I think there's an element of that which is cool, but of course, I don't think here they're splitting Clank away from Ratchet to make you be like, oh, I wish I had Clank to make that kind of rebonding and reconnecting and, meeting up with Clank again. I don't think they're making that seem like that's the goal here. That's the goal of the story, I think, but it's not necessarily the goal to give to the player that makes the player kind of empathize with Ratchet, being like, oh, I wish I had Clank because I can't do these things I used to be able to do, with the Helipack. So I think having the the option, or having the ability to still have dynamic movement without Clank is a good choice. But this also does make me think that it will likely mean that Clank won't be with Ratchet for most of the game. Now, I could be wrong about that, because I think Rivet also has the dash. I think I could be wrong. Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. I don't think I've actually written it down it, but the one thing I should mention is there was, in one of the combat sequences, they show off a boss fight, and the boss fight suddenly opens a rift in the middle of the fight. Ratchet flies through and then flies out the other side within like a second or two, and Ratchet appears in this other dimension. And stuff like that is just like it's crazy to think about like the power of the PS5 and the way that that can do that. It's like so quick and seamlessly. I do hope that that's not just because it could just come across as like almost novelty kind of thing, like, oh cool, we're now fighting in a different place. I hope they use that to their advantage to create some either random kind of fights that you don't really know what to expect, and it kind of throws you to something you're not expecting. But also maybe has some additional challenge to it that, you know, might throw you into a platforming segment mid-fight, might throw you into a place with grind rails. Like, I hope they embrace some of this, but I also kind of hope that they don't just linear path it. I don't hate it because it's still going to be fun, but it also would be cool to have, like, sort of different experiences to other players in terms of where you're being teleported to. I imagine it'll be more of the linear path, but we'll see. I think the also thing that's interesting to me is whether it is random, whether a rift can open, because I think they do like about 20 or 30% damage to the boss and then they teleport. So I don't know if it's like damage, like it's capped at a certain point in the damage, or if it's, you know, like it just randomly can happen. I don't know. I think it would be kind of maybe annoying to happen anywhere in the game. But I think, yes, the exit location being different or unique could be an interesting thing to play around with. But that's gone through like the main points. I've got a few miscellaneous things that were kind of shown towards the end. They just kind of smashed a bunch of like random bits of gameplay together. One hope that I did hope would come back were arenas, and they mentioned that yes, arena challenges are coming back. Like they are, they literally show off gameplay, and they're like, you know, arena challenges are there. So that's really cool. I'm interested to know how many they're going to be, how difficult they'll be, whether they, because in the old games you had like you went to one like place and then they had multiple challenges. I'm wondering if it's going to be like that, or if it will be more along the lines of you'll just come across different arenas as you play, and there'll be a single challenge, almost like Devil May Cry, what are they call, secret missions. They might be like that, but we'll see. I kind of hope maybe they're a mix. Maybe you could have random bits, but you also have them all in one place. Because I think it was cool, like the whole championship element they had going on, where it was like you play for prizes kind of thing, and you know, and you get like escalating difficulty challenges. Because I thought that was an interesting part of the game. They also show off something called glitch challenges. They show like a spider bot thing that's like shooting some stuff. I think they look neat to have, but I don't know if they've been in the previous games. But I saw it and I was kind of like, not really something that looks like my kind of thing. But they might be different challenges. You know, who knows? That's just more because I think I don't entirely like it when games pull you completely out of something to drop you into something completely random, if that makes sense. Like, not as your player character sort of thing. It just feels like it's a bit out of place, almost. I think that's kind of the feeling that I got with those glitch challenges. It's not like you're doing a cool challenge with Ratchet, it's like you're just in this spider bot thing and you're doing stuff. So we'll have to see what they're going to be like. I think it's extremely too early to judge. We haven't even played the game. We don't know what other ones there are. So not really going to make too many comments on that. And then the final thing, they mentioned that they've got accessibility options, and they show just this incredible list of like not only colorblind but also, you know, motion blur toggles or like sliders. The one thing they mentioned on the blog was that they're gonna have a toggleable game speed, which they mentioned that in a PlayStation blog article, which is really cool because that means I'm interested to know what the scaler is going to be like. I mean, the game looked pretty fast-paced anyway, but if you can up that even more or even slow it down, like, I think that's really cool, and it overall looks to be kind of like targeting what The Last of Us Part 2 had in terms of accessibility options. I think they have the one where you can, like, for increased readability, you can, like, the environment turns kind of like black and white, but the player character stays, like, a certain color. And same for, like, key items in the environment. And so things like that, I think they're cool to, like, mess around with just as a normal player, but they're also just great for those that, you know, it does benefit. And I think that's going to be awesome that hopefully more people are going to be able to engage with the game now, because of those things. And it's honestly really cool that these options are seemingly becoming more common as well, which I think it's great. But yeah, I think that's pretty much gone through like the primary things that I wanted to talk about As I said, I was gonna. I think I've also got some notes. This is actually so I wrote some notes, like a proper like brief thoughts kind of thing put together. I got sort of like a breakdown of things that I've sort of pointed out and spotted that I might update over time, depending on how I feel. That will probably be in an article form that might already be out. If it's already out, you should check the description. Um, and I've got some kind of brief thoughts in there if you want to read. But this is going to be more of my extended thoughts. So I don't know when this will go out, but hopefully soon because it's already been a week since the gameplay. But yeah, this has been talking about this Ratchet Clank. I'm really excited for this game. It is. I wrote before when I wrote that in the notes. I was like, it's only just over 5 weeks. Now it is 5 weeks, which means obviously in a week's time we're going to be closing in within a month. And it's been about 5 years since the reboot or reimagining of Ratchet and Clank, of the original. And before that, it was in I think it was August 2013 or October 2013 or something, when Into the Nexus came out on PS3. So since the last proper full built from the ground up Ratchet and Clank game, it's been nearly 8 years, like 7.5 to 8 years. So I'm ready. I'm ready for a new Ratchet. And I was anyway, and I enjoyed 2016, but this one looks like it's going to be packed with tons of new stuff, and I'm genuinely really am happy and just excited that we're getting this. And that gameplay kind of really blew me away. Really happy with pretty much everything they showed. As I said, there's now only a few remaining things. Like, please have cool upgrade systems, make it fun. Maybe difficulty options, and have a challenge mode. Challenge mode like New Game Plus, and then I think this Ratchet's going to be a blast. I mean, I think it's going to be a blast anyway, but with those extra additions, I think it's going to be great, and I genuinely it's going to be one of the greatest games, one of the most fun games this year. Yeah, and I'm interested to know what other games we'll get this year as well. We're obviously nearing E3 time, so who knows what else is coming. But yeah, I think Ratchet's going to be the game that's going to be probably mean the most to me this year. But yeah, I will end this here. As I said, very excited for Ratchet. Let me know what you think of Ratchet. Give me any ideas for topics or things you want me to talk about. Any questions, whatever you want to fire away. As I said, check the description. There'll probably be a link to the article. If not, that'll come afterwards. It should come before because that's how I wrote it and planned it. And that kind of has a bit of a breakdown that I've sort of gone through and just pointed out things and a few extra analysis on what I've noticed that's changed and kind of the way things are set out and a few extra thoughts on that. So I've kind of got just like a brief. It's not like super wordy. It's more bullet pointed. But I thought it'd be interesting to kind of try a different approach, do a bit of a trailer breakdown within text. But yeah, thanks for listening, and I'll see you all next time. So ciao, ciao, ciao.